We don't rent to people like you." Those 7 words didn't just deny Jeremiah Cole a home. They told him exactly how the world saw him. But they made one mistake. They assumed he'd stay broken. Jeremiah Cole didn't look like a millionaire. Not yet, anyway. He wore worn-out sneakers, an old button-up, and carried a backpack that had seen better days. He walked with the quiet confidence of a man who had known struggle and wasn't afraid to face more. That afternoon he was running on 2 hours of sleep and half a sandwich. His car, a used Civic with a cracked windshield, was parked on the street with an Uber sticker in the corner. He had just finished a 12-hour shift driving passengers around the city. But this moment? This apartment viewing? This was supposed to be the beginning of something new. The unit wasn't much. Just a 1-bedroom above a dry cleaner. But it was in a decent neighborhood, cleaner streets, safer parks. The kind of place where Jeremiah could sleep without hearing sirens. Where his niece could visit him without his sister worrying. He was early, standing outside the leasing office, sweating under the August sun. The landlord pulled up in a new Mercedes, stepping out in polished loafers. White, mid-50s. Name tag read Ray Dawson. Jeremiah extended a hand. "Mr. Dawson?" "Jeremiah Cole." "We spoke on the phone." Ray gave a short nod. Didn't take the handshake. Instead, he glanced at Jeremiah's clothes, then at his car, then at his skin. "You're the one for the 1B unit?" Ray asked. "Yes, sir. Got all my paperwork. First month's rent. Credit score's 720. I brought references too." Ray didn't even look at the papers. He opened the office door, let Jeremiah follow in, and sat behind a desk. Jeremiah stood awkwardly. Then Ray said it. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you. We don't rent to people like you." Jeremiah blinked. "Excuse me? You know what I mean. You people bring drama. Drugs. Late payments. I've dealt with it before. Not again." Jeremiah's face stayed still, but inside a storm raged. "I have a job," he said. "A clean record. I just finished a 12-hour shift." Ray held up a hand. "This unit's off the table. You can go now." Jeremiah left the office in silence. But that day, it didn't end with defeat. Because on that walk back to his Civic, he muttered something under his breath. "One day, I'll own this block." Jeremiah Cole wasn't supposed to make it. Born in a forgotten corner of Detroit. Single mother. Older brother shot at 17. Evicted 3 times before high school. Teachers told him to lower his expectations. But Jeremiah had grit, not the kind people post online, but the kind you earn by watching your mom cry over an empty fridge and deciding you'll never let that happen again. He worked 2 jobs through community college. Got into real estate slowly, flipping one rundown home with help from a mentor. Failed. Tried again. Studied tax codes. Attended foreclosure auctions. Made friends in city planning. Learned the game. And by 33, he had acquired 4 properties. Quietly. Humbly. No chains. No sports cars. Just a laptop, a vision, and a fire in his chest. The denial at Ray Dawson's office wasn't the first slap Jeremiah had received from the world. But it was the most blatant. The most dehumanizing. And something inside him snapped. He didn't fight back with rage. He fought back with a business plan. He took a photo of the building. Wrote its address in his journal. And every day after his shifts, driving strangers, delivering food, selling on eBay, he'd return to that street. He tracked vacancies. Noticed which landlords struggled. Which buildings had citations. He pulled property records, ownership histories, tax liens. He found out something crucial. Ray Dawson was over-leveraged. 3 properties. Behind on 2 mortgages. Tenants complaining. Cities citing him for violations. And then came the break. 6 months after that humiliating meeting, the 4-unit building across the street went into auction. Jeremiah placed a bid. It took every dollar he had. He borrowed from friends. Pitched to a black-owned credit union. Offered equity. And he won. He didn't just get a building. He got a front-row seat to Ray Dawson's downfall. From the moment Jeremiah got the keys, he went to work. He didn't install marble counters or fancy tiles. He fixed what mattered. Broken heaters, cracked windows, roach infestations. He hired black contractors. Gave chances to ex-felons with trade skills. Created safe, dignified spaces. Rent stayed fair. No background noise of discrimination. Just progress. Within a year, the neighborhood started noticing. Tenants left Dawson's building and crossed the street. His property sat half empty. And one night, Jeremiah saw it. A for sale sign in front of Ray's building. Jeremiah stood across the street, hands in his pockets, staring at that sign. Same building where he was once told he didn't belong. Same man who wouldn't shake his hand. He smiled and pulled out his phone. Hey, it's Cole. I'm ready to talk numbers. Let me guess, you're here to waste my time? That's what Ray Dawson said the second Jeremiah walked into the room. What Ray didn't know was that time had already run out for him. Ray Dawson looked tired. The confident slouch in his walk was gone. His designer shoes were creased, his shirt wrinkled. His Mercedes wasn't parked outside this time. Just a dusty Toyota sedan with a cracked taillight. Jeremiah stood across from him in the same office where, a year ago, he'd been told he wasn't good enough for a one-bedroom apartment. But this time, he wasn't there as a renter. He was there as a buyer. Ray slid a manila folder across the table with the words, Franklin Arms, sale package. You really think you can afford this building? He sneered, tapping the papers. Jeremiah didn't flinch. He opened the folder slowly, like a man who wasn't in a rush to prove anything. Like someone who'd already done the math twice. Ray kept talking. It's a premium location. Historic. High value. I've already got interest from 2 developers. Big players. I don't think this is your level, mister. Cole, was it? Jeremiah met his eyes. I'm not a developer. I'm an owner. Just like you. There was a pause. Ray chuckled under his breath, but Jeremiah could see it, behind his eyes, the fear. Because Ray wasn't holding any cards. His building was bleeding tenants. The roof needed repairs. City fines were piling up. And the only buyer standing in front of him was the black man he tried to humiliate. I'm offering you full asking. Cash. But there's a condition. Ray raised an eyebrow. Condition. Jeremiah leaned forward. You don't get to manage anything. You don't stay on as consultant. You sign, you walk. Ray's jaw tensed. He stood up, paced around the office like a man trying to keep pride stitched together with thread. I built this place up from nothing, he spat. When I bought it, this street was gang-ridden trash. I cleaned it up. Me. Not the city. Not your people. Jeremiah didn't react. Because he wasn't here for a debate. He was here for a deed. What Ray didn't know, what Jeremiah never said out loud, was that the Franklin Arms was more than a building. It was history. His mother, Dolores Cole, once cleaned rooms in that same building in the early 90s. She used to come home, shoes soaked, hands raw from scrubbing floors. She'd say, "One day, baby, we'll live somewhere with our name on the mailbox." Jeremiah remembered her fingers shaking as she circled apartment listings in the classifieds. Remembered the day she got denied housing because she was black, single, and had too many kids. She cried for hours that night, thinking the world had no room for people like them. Jeremiah promised himself that day, "One day, I'll build a place where our people are never treated like problems." Ray took 2 days to think. He tried to hold out, waiting for higher offers, but the developers backed out. No one wanted the baggage, the lawsuits from tenants, the city citations, the public complaints. On the 3rd day he called. "You still want it?" he asked, voice flat. "Yes," Jeremiah said. "Fine. I'll sign. But don't expect me to say congratulations." Jeremiah smiled to himself. "I don't need your words. I'll take your keys." The papers were signed at 9:03 a.m. Ray's signature was stiff, the pen trembling slightly in his hand. Jeremiah shook the notary's hand, thanked the attorney, and then held the deed in both hands. No smile. No tears. Just silence. The kind that meant something was complete. Something bigger than money. He walked out of the office and didn't look back. Within a month, the building's front signage was taken down. In its place, carved into black iron, bold against fresh white paint, stood the new name. The Dolores Cole Residences. A place for dignity. A place for all. Every tenant received a notice under their door that day. No rent hikes. Free repairs. An open invitation to meet their new landlord personally. And when Jeremiah walked into the lobby that evening to greet them, a young boy pointed and whispered to his mother, "That's the man who owns the whole place." Jeremiah bent down to shake the boy's hand. "What's your name, King?" he asked. "Terrence." "You like it here, Terrence?" The boy nodded. "It's quiet now, and we got hot water." Jeremiah smiled. "Good. This place is yours too." Jeremiah didn't stop with one building. He started attending more city auctions. He created a foundation, the Cole Block Initiative, to help formerly rejected applicants secure affordable units. He partnered with black architects, environmental designers, and urban farmers. He bought the empty lot next to the Dolores Cole Residences and turned it into a community garden. He added a free literacy library open every day. He made space, Actual physical space for people like his mother, people like him. Ray Dawson, meanwhile, was seen one afternoon yelling at a meter officer downtown after getting towed. Rumor had it he'd moved into a rental condo 2 cities over. No one really saw him anymore. Except once, when Jeremiah passed him at a zoning hearing. Ray tried to avoid eye contact. Jeremiah gave him a quiet nod and walked on, because some victories don't need an audience. 3 months after the purchase, Jeremiah got a knock on his office door. It was a white man in a crisp navy suit. "Well, Mr. Cole," he said, extending a hand, "we've been watching your work, and we're ready to make an offer." Jeremiah raised an eyebrow. "What kind of offer?" The man smiled. "To buy the entire block. You don't belong here." Those words hadn't just forced Jeremiah Cole out of an apartment office. They had lit a fuse. And now, the fuse was nearing its end. The Dolores Cole Residences was no longer just an idea. It was brick, mortar, blueprints, permits. Foundations had been poured. Steel beams went up like a monument to everything Jeremiah had been told he couldn't do. But not everyone was clapping. Ever since his redevelopment plans were made public, the whispers had grown louder. "He's going to gentrify the neighborhood. Who does he think he is? Bet he got lucky money." One local business owner, Mr. Temple, a barber who'd run his shop for 40 years, even told the press, "That young man's about to do to us what the banks did to our fathers." Jeremiah didn't flinch, at least not in public. But behind closed doors it hurt. Deeply. He wasn't trying to erase the block, he was trying to save it. His project promised affordable housing, local job training, even a community library. But it didn't matter. In their eyes, he was just another developer. And that title came with baggage. One morning, as construction cranes carved into the sky, Jeremiah got a call that shook him. It was Ms. Ford, the same leasing manager who had once denied him the apartment. He hadn't heard from her since. "Jeremiah, it's been years. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but..." Her voice trembled. "My son's on the crew building your place. He came home talking about how you run the site. With respect, with care. And I had to call, to say I was wrong. You didn't deserve what I said back then." Silence. Jeremiah didn't know what to feel. Vindicated? Angry? Grateful? He simply said, "Thank you. That means more than you know." But that night he couldn't sleep. Not because of her apology, but because of what followed. Someone had tagged the construction site overnight. Spray painted across the fencing in thick red letters. "Black money ruins black communities." The message wasn't signed, but Jeremiah didn't need a signature. This wasn't a tweet. This was a declaration. There were still people, some white, some black, who didn't want him building anything. Not here. Not on their street. Not on their terms. The next morning, the crew showed up in silence. No one said a word as Jeremiah stood before the graffiti. He looked over at a young welder, Isaiah, who was barely 20 and wore the same nervous energy Jeremiah once had. "You good, boss?" Isaiah finally asked. Jeremiah nodded. "No, but we keep building." Over the next few weeks, Jeremiah doubled down on community meetings. He invited tenants to voice concerns. He offered rent freezes for longtime residents. He recruited small, black-owned businesses to be part of the retail spaces on the ground floor. He even renamed the first building publicly, the Dolores Cole Residences, for his mother, the woman who had worked 2 jobs and still faced eviction with a baby on her hip. He unveiled the sign in front of a quiet crowd. Some clapped. Some stood with arms crossed. But when an older woman in the back wiped her eyes and whispered, "She'd be proud," Jeremiah knew he was walking the right road. Then came the lawsuit, filed anonymously, alleging improper zoning approval, bribery, and misuse of funds. Jeremiah was stunned. There was no merit to it, but the damage was immediate. Bankers pulled back. One investor ghosted him. And worst of all, City Hall froze all permits. The site went silent. Just like that. Cranes stalled. Workers sent home. The sound of hope, replaced by sirens and silence. And that night, Jeremiah sat in his truck outside the lot, staring at the lifeless machinery. He thought about giving up. He even drafted the email, "Due to unforeseen complications, I'll be withdrawing from the project." But before he hit send, he looked at the blueprint one last time. The daycare, the bakery, the rooftop garden, the affordable housing. He thought of Miss Ford's son, of Isaiah, of his mother, and he deleted the email. With permits frozen and lawsuits pending, Jeremiah did the only thing he could. He went door to door, block to block, store to store. He sat in barbershops, church pews, corner stoops, and he listened to pain, to fear, to people tired of being promised things by suits and shiny shoes who didn't know the first thing about their block. So Jeremiah took off his. He rolled up his sleeves, showed up to trash cleanups, helped fix broken streetlights, gave local kids their first hard hats and a reason to believe. And slowly the whispers changed. One elder told the city council during a public hearing, "I watched that boy get turned away from a building that now carries his mama's name. He ain't here to erase us. He is us." That night the lawsuit was dropped, and the permits? Reinstated. 6 months later, the ribbon cutting was held under a clear blue sky. Kids ran through the courtyard of the Dolores Cole residences, laughing. Mothers sat on benches shaded by new trees. Storefronts glowed with signs, locally owned, black-owned bakery, affordable cuts. And the first resident to receive keys was an older man who had spent 30 years renting in the area, Jeremiah's former janitor, Mr. Jackson. Jeremiah handed him the keys himself. Tears rolled down Mr. Jackson's cheeks as he whispered, "Your mama would be real proud." Jeremiah smiled, the weight of every no, every rejection, every sleepless night landing all at once. This wasn't just a building, it was a beginning. As the crowd clapped, someone approached Jeremiah quietly. A journalist. "Mr. Cole, you've built something extraordinary. Any final words for the city?" Jeremiah looked out over the courtyard. The laughter, the faces, the future. Then back at the reporter. He smiled. "They denied me a single apartment. Now this whole block has my mother's name on it. That's all the words I need. What would you do if the very people who rejected you had to walk through doors you built?" This is Racism Exposed. Subscribe now for more real stories told with power. Let your voice be heard.